Welcome to F101 with Friends, your pit stop for all things Formula One. Whether you're here for the stats, the memes, or just figuring out what a chicane is, we've got you covered. Buckle up, because the fun starts right now. Hi everyone, my name is Nisha, a newbie F1 girlie who is desperate to make more friends so that I can talk about this sport all the time. Each week, a new guest will join me on this journey, from seasoned F1 fans to other curious newcomers, and we will explore what it is about this $1 million sport at gravity-defying speeds that we just can't stop watching. We'll try to break it all down in a way that's fun, relatable, and hopefully try to explain some of the tech talk. So today we will be getting you ready for the next race in Suzuka. And I'm joined by longtime F1 follower and Ferrari fan, Chandreyi. Welcome to the show, Chandreyi.
Hi Nisha, thank you so much for having me on the show. Really excited with what you're doing here and so glad that you chose me as a guest.
Of course, I want to build this community where we have a lot of people talking about F1. And I know this might be biased, but I especially want more women in F1. So I'm glad to have you on this episode. But I want our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So can you tell us what got you into F1?
Well, when it comes to talking about F1 as a female fan, I actually got into this when there wasn't a lot of visibility still in India as compared to where we are standing in 2025 now. And I see so many women talking about F1, getting into discussions, even so much that magazines are also writing about us. I think it's fantastic to be here. But when I did start off in 2016, it was purely because my then boyfriend, who is currently my partner as well, who has been a long time F1 follower since he was a little child, and he
Wow.
actually, I was actually on a Chris Hemsworth films binge watch mode when he recommended the film Rush to me. And
Ah,
you
okay.
must know this is this iconic film about Niki Lauda and James Hunt's
Yep.
rivalry, and that film just got me hooked onto the concept of the sports. And before that, I used to think that what is this, like cars going in round and round circles. I used to
Yes.
find it very childish that adult men are doing this as a professional sport. But then I not only just watched the film, I think that just sparked something which got me into looking at this a lot more closely. I started following the season. At that time, Sebastian Vettel was there with Ferrari, and it was a really great time. Hamilton was on this winning spree. He was winning consecutive world championships, and it was just a very nice time to get introduced to F1 because it's one of that phases that F1 history will remember forever. And I am just super happy that after following it for so many years, I am probably perhaps in a position where I can bring some value to your listeners in terms of what they should look for in F1, what makes it so exciting, and why there is so much dynamic changes around the sport. Like we rightly call it a moving circus, right? It's a traveling
Yep.
circus that goes from every part of the continent to the other continent within weeks, and things got set up, and then the race weekend comes in, and within a week you are in a different continent. I think the whole idea of it is just very fascinating. And having said that, of course, the 20 drivers who are always pining and working really hard, sometimes from very early ages, to come into this sport and do something and make their mark and get their names written in history is something that really is inspiring as an audience for me. And that keeps me hooked on because the rookies coming in, the experienced
Yep.
drivers like Alonso and Hamilton and Nico Hulkenberg being on the grid, and there's so much change that happens every year. And now with content like Drive to Survive, we get to know the inner workings of the sport also. So I think it's a great time to for anybody to kind of start taking an interest in F1. And yeah, happy to help anybody navigate their way through whatever I know.
I love that. I love that response, honestly. It's such a because like I think we have moved away from the oh, you follow F1, name three F1 drivers, that kind of culture is gone.
This is the headline of that story I shared with you this morning, right? That
Yes.
enough of those name three drivers games. We know a little more if you would give us the credit. So yeah, I think it's a great thing that you started doing, and this is with friends, and like I said, like there you are going to find so many amazing people across Indian cities and even abroad who are sitting there and probably attending races and telling us about it. Like there's so much memes, so much content, funny things, serious things. That's a whole world out there. So it's just fair that we take our step into this.
I think so too. So, what would you say at a dinner party if you met all of your favorite F1 drivers?
Only if I don't faint first. It would be really like a dream come true, and I think I will be like very anxious throughout the party. But yeah, I think it's not something funny, because I really personally feel that these drivers give it their everything when they are coming into a race weekend. So my primary question to them is, how do they literally stand the crazy heat inside the cockpit? Because the boys,
Oh, yeah.
most of the time, especially in the humid tracks, you will see them coming out all sweaty and red in the face, and I really feel for them. Yeah, I really feel like it must be really really hard. It's one thing to drive a car, but it's a whole different gig to drive a Formula One car. So I think the primary question I would ask all of them is, how do they deal with that heat?
Absolutely. In fact, I think I'm not sure if you saw that Drive to Survive episode in Singapore, right? And
Yes,
George
of
Russell
course.
falling
And I
sick.
could, you could hear like George panting and
Yeah.
having hyperventilating in his room, right? So it's really,
Yes.
really, really gets to you that how hard these boys work to get where they are, and even then, it's sometimes not enough, because they lose a lot of kilograms every weekend and
Yep.
they have to make it all back up. It's just a very disciplined routine. So I think that also makes F1 very interesting to me in terms of the competitiveness of the grid, like how you have to literally be at your best at all times. And
Yeah.
then look at Lewis Hamilton, like going like
Oof.
smoothly gliding through the grid, and
I know. I
giving it
know.
all, and making people all over the world his fans. And that's how the world champions, I think, inspire something more than just sportsmanship and people who are watching them constantly. At least they do for me.
Absolutely. I think so too. Anytime I see Fernando Alonso, especially 2023 Qatar, like watching, some of the younger drivers even just be like, I cannot do this anymore. I have to get out. It's hot. And then
Yeah.
Alonso going all the way to the end, and he's just like getting down. He's like just stretching his back legs here, there. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. How are you doing this, buddy?
He's like
This
just
is
just a day
way,
on the field.
yeah.
I think he's quite
Yeah.
a character, and it's really great to have him around. I mean, with all his experience and all his antiques, he just adds a little bit of charm to the grid, and it's just fantastic to
I
have
know.
see him still being in form. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I we can't really say that about the last two races that we've seen, unfortunately, because he
Yeah.
had a spin in Australia and then brake failure in Shanghai. So actually, since we're two races down and we're preparing for the third, why don't we just quickly go through the highlights of Shanghai? What are your
Ooh.
thoughts? Like, what was your highlights for you? Like,
Well, I think it was really great to see McLaren being consistent. And
uh-huh.
well, I wasn't really expecting like a bomb result from Ferrari, but I'm
Yep.
really happy for a few people on the grid who have walked around the track. A lot of them were not really very comfortable in the beginning, because Shanghai has come back on the F1 grid since last couple of years, I think. And yeah, it's still very early in the season. We are just getting started. A lot of things are working out in terms of tire strategies and what works and what doesn't, especially in terms of brakes, braking areas, and DRS. I think it was an interesting race to see. I think Piastri did a fab job, and the way he's
He did.
maturing with every race, every podium, it's just really gives us a lot to look forward to.
I absolutely agree. And he's put himself in that World Driving Championship battle. He's like, please don't discount me. I am here. Norris is not the only papaya that you need to root for. So I really appreciate, and I really like Piastri as well. He's so calm. Like, I don't understand how someone can be that calm at
Yeah,
300
for his
kilometers per
age, I
hour.
think he really does give off
Yeah.
a championship leader vibe of sorts, if I can say, like if any such thing exists. But that really sets him apart from, like, there is no hyperactivity, there is no random responses. He's very calculated,
Yep.
very measured. I think that's just some of the very nice aspects of the more younger F1 drivers that you see now who are coming in from karting and then F2, F3. They just learn so much on the track and then bring all that together when they are finally reaching F1. I think it just
Yep.
creates a new breed, new pedigree of drivers, which is just really fantastic to see.
I completely agree. It's interesting to follow their life story as well, and see
Absolutely.
how many struggles they've had, and where they've come, in where they are placed right now in F1.
Yeah.
So that was it is McLaren's they're definitely winning the the constructors championship this year. The drivers
Woohoo! Tall
championship is
claims. I like
I
that.
think
Are we
so.
doing projections? Let's do projections then. But yeah, I believe this season should bring about some changes about Ferrari's performance also, not just because we have Lewis Hamilton, but also because there has been, if you look at Ferrari's performance for the last, say, 3 or 4 years since Vettel
Yeah.
left and they got in Charles and Sainz, they have been making consistent improvements. It's just that strategy sometimes is really like off
Yep.
everywhere. It's kind of all over the place. But otherwise, overall, constructor championship wise, I think Ferrari could prove to be a smart contender this year. Mercedes, I
Could
think
be.
we still have some time to see, like, kind of like not both the cars are performing yet, so we have to see if Kimi Antonelli can make his mark and drive a little better. I am really excited about Isaac Hajar. I think that guy has great potential, and he just showed us what he's capable of at the last race. Also, today was just not his day, maybe, but he still put in a
Yeah.
good fight, and I think there is he's looking very bright.
I think so too. In fact, just going back to Mercedes and Ferrari, right? Mercedes seems to have found themselves on the podium on both races, which is like, and George is being really sneaky about this. Nobody talks about him throughout the race, and then suddenly they're like, oh my God, is that George on the podium? Where did he come from? So,
I think that's pretty great because see, Mercedes is not a team that you can discount at any point of the season.
yeah.
They can just turn things around like that, and I have that faith. Uh, I have had that faith in them since the last so many years, and seven-time consecutive constructor world champions. I mean,
Yes.
while it is not easy, it's just remarkable to see the leadership that Toto Wolff brings in, and how, like, the team is motivated to do better with every failure, every challenge. They just take it head on and try to solve it. So I think you can
Yeah.
never really discount Mercedes, and this year has 20. We have 24 races, so we're just
Yes.
2 down, and there's a long way to go.
There is a very, very long way to go, which is why it's very difficult to also make predictions based on just two races, because you never know, right? Because mid-season is when Ferrari usually brings in all of their insane upgrades and somehow manage to sort themselves out.
Right.
So yeah, it is going to be a very exciting year, and yeah, a lot happened in Shanghai. Oh, Lewis Hamilton won the sprint race. I really enjoyed seeing that. I thought it was great.
I thought it was fantastic because that man just showed everybody what he is capable of given a good car. And the
Yeah.
choice that he made this year, which obviously broke a lot of hearts, but then gave people like me a lot of delight because we at Ferrari have been waiting to see Lewis in red. And I think, apart from all the expectations that surround such a move, it's just fantastic to see an accomplished driver like him come and take the car and kind of make the most out of it, like push it to the extent. And that
Yeah.
win on the sprint was just phenomenal.
I think so too. I mean, it is going to be disappointing because they have both Ferraris have been disqualified from the Grand Prix.
Ooh.
I know, it's very sad because one for Lewis it was the plank which was too low, that doesn't meet the technical regulations, and for Charles it was that he was 1 kg lesser than the required limit, and that's going to be a little bit of a heartbreak for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Another person experiencing heartbreak is Pierre Gasly in his Alpine. He also did not meet the weight requirements, so he's going to be disqualified as well. But silver lining is Carlos Sainz moves up into points, so there's some points for both Williams in this race. I think Haas did a great job, and they got both their cars into the points, which is good because it looked like the Haas was a little bit of a tractor, but Esteban and Ollie Behrman are doing a fantastic job. So I think of all the rookies, Antonelli, of course, in his Mercedes did really well. Ollie, and as you said, Hajar showed a lot of potential. And Bortoletto, the thing is, I know that he's good. He's a recent F2 champion, recent F3 champion. I know that he's good, but he's stuck in a car that's not going to show off his full potential. So we'll have to keep our eyes open for that.
Right. But when you talk about rookies, I know he's not exactly a rookie. He drove a few races last year. But Liam Lawson is actually not meeting the expectations that Christian Horner would have probably brought him in with. So we need to look at
Yeah.
that, and who knows, we might even see a mid-season swap with somebody from VCARB to Red Bull. I am actually thinking that that might be a big possibility, maybe a little early in the season itself, if Liam doesn't deliver soon.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, but so we're recording this in advance, but I just saw a couple of rumors that Yuki Tsunoda might replace Liam in the Japanese Grand Prix.
I won't be surprised.
Yeah, it makes sense to do it on that race because it's Japan and you want to leverage Yuki as much as you can. And it's a bit unfortunate. In fact, Max, they did this interview with Max and they asked him like, oh, why do you think Liam is struggling? And Max was very clear. He said the car is not good this year, right? Only I know how to drive this because I've been doing this for a while. They
Yeah.
should not have put Liam in the Red Bull. They should have given him a year at Racing Bulls, let him have the confidence, and then move him up if you have to. And I completely get it, right? They could have just Yuki Tsunoda is an expensive guy to have in your development team, and I love Yuki. He is my driver, but I think it's important for him if he's going to be around for just this one last year. Put him in the Red Bull, let him try and get some points, and then say bye to him at the end of the year. It's fine.
I think Yuki is a fantastic driver. He is quick, he is very nimble, and he is very brave when it comes to making certain moves that other drivers probably wouldn't even try. So, in that way, I
Yeah.
think he has what it takes to fight for it. And I absolutely could not agree more with you that he should probably be given a better car so that he can show what he is capable of. If at
Yeah.
all, like if he also feels the way we do, that this is probably going to be the last year for him in F1, because he might just be able to change that around, right?
I mean, it depends on what seats are available because Honda has stopped backing him, right? So it's going to be tough to sort of justify his place because he spent 5 years in technically a B team. So it's going to be tough for him. But like, if you are paying for him, like Red Bull as a company, if you are paying a lot of money for him, you might as well use him and
Yes.
stop demolishing Liam Lawson's dwindling confidence with a bad car, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Drive to Survive episode where Liam comes in and takes that car and just drives it through Silverstone, I think he's
Yeah.
got a lot of potential, and Christian Horner is not wrong in bringing him in. But here, what you are saying, I think makes complete sense because they like there's a lot of pressure on that boy. So
Yeah.
I think that also needs to be thought about in terms of like how best can they extend support to Max Verstappen when he's fighting to keep his championship. And this year, I believe it is going to be a lot harder for Max to hold on to it, because the competition has gotten a lot more intense. McLaren is looking really, really strong. So, as long as they keep going into the season with this level of confidence and the car that's performing the way it is, I think McLaren has a very, very strong chance at snatching that championship away.
I think so too. I think so too. And so, like, yes, to support, the thing is, Liam tested in the 2024 car, and the 2025 car is very different. Max
Right,
feels it too. So
right.
it is, and plus he tested on an empty track. This is, when the pressure is so much more right now.
Yeah, well, this is different, and if you saw the incident that happened this morning when he was trying to take on Jack Doohan, I think the
Yes,
commentator said that it was a bit unnecessary because it's
correct.
your junior team. You don't really want to damage your car fighting someone on the track who is from the other team. So you don't do
Yeah.
that. So I think his aggression is a bit misplaced, being the position he is on the grid at the moment. But I'm sure he will turn it around, and things will change for him soon as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Here's hoping. I honestly see a lot of potential in him. So I'd be quite sad if they just like Albon or gaslead him, as Red Bull is known to do. But we shall wait and
But you
find
know what,
out.
Nisha? Here, I actually wanted to say something to you because I know it is very heartbreaking to see these young boys just lose their seats. But it is such a common thing in F1, and I have been
I
following
know.
for about 10 years, and my partner has been following since he was 10 years old. And he just says that it's just an insane level of competition, and these guys are preparing for this one seat, one chance at driving an F1 car their whole lives, and it is make or break. It happens, and a lot of people stick around in mediocre cars, driving around the circuit in like 15th or onwards positions, and never really make it to Q2 even most of their lifetimes in Formula One. But that just proves like how coveted a seat is, and why you need to work harder and harder. And sometimes it's not just talent that makes you or makes it possible for you to get that seat. You really have to be consistent in terms of what you're
Yeah.
delivering, how well you work with a team, and there's a lot of things around. So for these young boys, of course, it poses a lot of challenges, but it also makes them great professionals when they come into F1 and grow with it.
Absolutely. It is a ruthless sport, but it's great for us fans because we get to see some amazing action on track and off track. So it's a great reason to be invested in F1 as well.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
coming up after Chinese Grand Prix and the disaster that happened today with Ferrari, tell me a little bit about like what your thoughts about the Suzuka circuit and the race are.
So, 1962, Soichiro Honda was looking to turn his car company into a powerhouse, and he decided that he wanted to create his own test track. So, the first Formula One Japanese Grand Prix in 1976 was actually held at the Fuji Speedway, as Suzuka was still going through a lot of renovations. The Suzuka track is arguably one of the best tracks on the circuit, and most drivers feel that way. So, some quick facts. The first race was held in 1987, and it is the only track on the F1 calendar with a figure 8 layout, which is it features a crossover bridge where the cars pass over each other. The drivers will do about 53 laps around this 5.807 kilometer circuit, which has 18 corners. The current lap record is held by Lewis Hamilton in Mercedes in 2019, which is 1 minute 30 seconds 983 milliseconds. Suzuka has hosted around 13 World Championship title deciders, and it used to be towards the end of the season. It has been modified at least 8 times because of how dangerous certain corners can be. The Japanese F1 fans are the most dedicated, and you can see them creating these elaborate handmade driver themed costumes and hats that look like working DRS flaps. It is very, very cool. This race is definitely on my list, and one day I'm hoping to go and experience as you did.
Oh, you must.
It's in fact, I think this was the race last year when there was this Japanese uncle who was wearing like Red Bull costume, and like as the video was on him, he just quickly swapped out, like he removed the top and he was like, Alonso, and he had full like Aston Martin below it. I was like, wow, uncle.
Well, once an Alonso fan, always an Alonso fan. But yeah, the Japanese
Absolutely.
can be really creative, and I can say this because I have personally been to this track, and it's just one big grand mega fair that happens at Suzuka. So more about that later.
Wow. Yes, we will get to that in a bit. So, Chandreyi, if you just look at the track, how would you describe it? What does it look like to you?
Well, looking at it from an aerial point of view, which clearly makes it an eight ball shape, it's really interesting because when the cars are not flying and the race hasn't started, you can actually walk under or over the crossover pass. So it's really interesting
Oh.
when you can take a look around the track, and it's just beautiful. It's just you have a view of the sea from the one side of the track. You can see like meadows which are going around. So it's a really nice track in terms of the location and also its elevations and stuff. There are a lot of different difficult turns here. So it is like a giant rubber band that fell on the ground, twisting on itself. It kind of looks like the outline of Japan itself, like a little bit off here and there. It flows beautifully, but one mistake can end your race instantly at this track. So while the figure eight layout is unique and the track is famous for its fast technical corners, it demands a lot of precision.
I love that. And this is exactly why this racetrack is one of my favorites as well. So let's go through the sectors one by one. Sector 1 is the rhythm section. It is a 400-meter dash to turn 1 and 2, which is a high-speed right-hander that seems to turn into itself. Then you have the S's. It's literally 4 turns that sweep left and right like a snake until you take an almost circular left at turn 7, or the Dunlop curve. The cars can go full throttle here, but it is notorious for ruining their rear tires.
So sector 2 is the danger zone. You are faced with Degner 1 and 2, named after professional Grand Prix motorcycle road racer Ernst Degner. He actually came to Japan to race for Suzuki, escaping secret police in Germany. Can you believe that?
Ooh, my God, scary.
He was instrumental in establishing bike racing in the country, and in this corner experienced a near fatal incident where the fuel tank of his bike just blew up. Turn 8 and 9 are two extremely unforgiving right-handers, with turn 9 almost going perpendicular. We then get a sharp left hairpin at turn 10 and 11, leading to a long right-handed bowl-like curve at turn 12. After that, we have the spoon curve at turn 13 and 14, which is a long double apex left-hander that sets up the fastest part of the track.
Sector 3 is a flat out to the finish. After Spoon Curve, we come to the one and only DRS zone in the track. This is why I like this track. It is the only place to do the straight line speed overtake, but drivers won't keep waiting for this one specific part of the track. They will use the curves to overtake, which is just beautiful to watch. This DRS zone is the part that is an overpass. You'll see the cars below getting out of turn 9 and attempting the hairpin. After the DRS zone, you have 130R or turn 15. This is one of the fastest corners in F1. It's a left-hand bend taken at over 300 kilometers per hour. It used to be a deadly corner because it had a radius of 130 meters, hence the name. But it's better now with safety improvements. It's still the corner which separates the greats from the good. The final chicane is the Casino Triangle or turn 16, 17 and 18, where drivers will go right, left and curve right back onto the start-finish straight. Oh, by the way, I just realized that I've never actually explained what a chicane is. So it's a sequence of tight alternating corners often taken at low speed. So either it'll go left, right or right, left. It's got like a serpentine shape and it's usually comprising more than one turn. This is what makes it different from just a simple corner. Now, while you picture the figure 8 skinny track, as Chandreyi called it, the rubber band falling on itself, let me take you on a sensory hot lap at Suzuka International Circuit. You're at full throttle, engine alive, the grandstands flashing by in a blur. The first corner approaches fast. You gently lift off the throttle, letting the car glide into the wide right-hander before slamming the brakes to make turn 2. Now comes the dance. Left, right, left, right. The S curves are like a roller coaster, each turn following the next. You push through the final left-hand sweep. The Dunlop curve is fast, demanding complete trust in your car. You dive into Degner 1, a tight right-hander, and instantly you flick right and brake hard for Degner 2. Hard on the brakes, the car shudders as you fight the steering wheel into the hairpin. Now comes one of the trickiest corners on the circuit. You find the apex at Spoon, turning left, knowing patience is key. You roll on the throttle and prepare for the most exhilarating stretch of Suzuka. Flat out, no lift, 300 km per hour. You're in the legendary 130R, a left-handed sweeper as you grip the wheel tighter. The final chicane, you stamp on the brakes, throwing the car into the tight left-right sequence. The rear twitches, you wrestle it into control, and then you launch back onto the main straight. So, Chandreyi, how do you feel?
I think Japan and Suzuka has been one of the most iconic tracks in the history of F1. Because of many technical difficulties, you actually require a lot of precision when driving on this track. Add to that a lot of unpredictable weather, which is signature to Japan. I think it's just fantastic to see Japan happening earlier in the year, and I'm really excited for it.
Yes, but before Suzuka became the legendary track that we know today, Japan wasn't even on the Formula One map, right? In the early days of motorsport, Europe and North America were at the heart of racing, and Japan was still developing its automotive industry. But one company was determined to change that, and that's Honda. Back in the late 1950s, Soichiro Honda was the founder of Honda Motor Company, and he had a vision. He wanted to take his company to the pinnacle of motorsport and compete against the world's best. But to do that, Japan needed a proper international racing circuit. So that is when, in 1962, Honda commissioned the construction of Suzuka International Racing Course, which is a track that would serve as both a testing ground for their cars and a world-class racing venue.
The man tasked with designing Suzuka was actually John Hugenholtz, a Dutch architect who had previously designed the Zandvoort circuit in the Netherlands. Now, Hugenholtz wasn't interested in creating a simple boring racetrack. He wanted Suzuka to be something unique, something that would challenge even the best of the drivers. And so, Suzuka was born, the world's first and only figure-8 F1 circuit. Suzuka isn't just another racetrack. It's one of the most technically demanding circuits in the whole world. Built in the countryside, the track went through natural hills and forests, giving Suzuka a lot of elevation changes. Unlike many modern circuits that have wide tarmac runoff areas, Suzuka has grass and gravel lining the edges. That means if a driver makes a mistake, there is no room for recovery. They are either in the gravel or in the wall.
Suzuka hosted the first GP in 1987 and had this exclusively for 20 years. In 2007, the Grand Prix moved back to the newly redesigned Fuji Speedway. After a second race at Fuji in 2008, the race returned to Suzuka in 2009. This was part of like an alternating agreement between the owners of the Fuji Speedway, which was Toyota, and Suzuka Circuit, which is Honda. And Toyota and Honda are like perennial rivals. However, in July 2009, thanks to the recession, Toyota announced that it would no longer host races. This is also the year that Toyota gave up on their F1 team and we got Braun GP. But from this year, we see Toyota back on the grid through their partnership with Haas. The Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka isn't just another race on the calendar. It is a battleground where legends are made. If you ask any old school F1 fan about Suzuka, the first thing they'll probably talk about is Ayrton Senna versus Alain Prost. Their rivalry in the late 80s was pure fire, and Suzuka was the arena where it all came to a head twice.
Well, Nisha, there won't be an F1 fan who doesn't know about that incident. So in 1989, Prost and Senna were teammates at McLaren. But at this point, they absolutely despised each other. Prost was leading the race, but Senna was not one to give up. The two cars tangled and they came to a stop in the escape road. Prost got out, thinking his day was done. But Senna got his car restarted, came back into the pits for a quick repair, and went on to win that race. For a brief moment, it looked like he had pulled off a miracle. But the FIA had other plans. Senna was disqualified for cutting the chicane, handing Prost the 1981 World Championship in one of the most controversial decisions in F1 history.
Yes, but 1 year later in 1990, Senna was back for revenge. This time, Prost had moved to Ferrari and once again there was a title on the line. At turn 1, Senna refused to back out, smashing straight into Prost at full speed. Both cars skidded off into the gravel, and just like that, the race and the championship was over. Senna was champion, but he had won it in the most controversial way.
Suzuka was always actually a very special place for Michael Schumacher as well. But his 2000 victory was historic. Ferrari had spent years waiting for a driver's championship at this time, and this was their best chance yet. Schumacher had been battling Mika Häkkinen all season, and everything came down to Japan. That day, the two legends fought, trading the lead multiple times. But Schumacher, in typical fashion, pulled off a masterclass, securing his third world title and Ferrari's first championship since 1979.
If there's one race that defines Kimi Raikkonen's Iceman legacy, it is Suzuka 2005. This wasn't just a win, it was one of the greatest comebacks in F1 history. Starting at P17 after a wet qualifying, Kimi charged down the field with fearless overtakes. By the final lap, he was hunting for the win. Down the back straight, he used the slipstream, sent it around the outside at turn 1 and snatched victory in one of the greatest last lap moves in F1 history. From P17 to P1, it was pure Iceman magic. Suzuka 2005 cemented Kimi's legend. No radio hype, no drama, just speed, skill and a cold-blooded finish. One of the best races ever.
The 2014 Japanese Grand Prix was actually marked by tragedy when Jules Bianchi suffered a fatal crash. In heavy rain, Adrian Sutil spun off at turn 7, bringing out a recovery vehicle. Just a lap later, Bianchi lost control at the same corner, colliding with the crane at high speed. The impact caused severe head injuries, and after 9 long months in a coma, Jules Bianchi tragically passed away in July 2015. His death led to major safety changes.
In 2012, Kamui Kobayashi took his maiden podium in Formula 1 with the third place at the Japanese Grand Prix. Kobayashi became the first Japanese driver to finish on a Formula 1 podium in Japan in 22 years. Yuki hasn't had much luck here, but he scored points in 2024, so good for him. Here's hoping that we see something amazing from him this year.
Yes, I think with the kind of fandom that we see coming in from Japan, both in terms and the kind of support that comes from Honda in the recent years that has come in F1, a Japanese driver on the grid, even before Yuki, there was no Japanese driver on the grid for the longest time. So I think it's a great opportunity for him to showcase his country people what he's made of.
Yes. To really appreciate and enjoy 2025, we should give you some context on everything that happened in 2024. Chandreyi, why don't you get started?
Well, I love that race. So turn 1, lap 1. And the incidents were already starting with Albon in his Williams crashing with Daniel in the V-Carb. His chance at a Red Bull seat slowly disappearing every minute. Now, not a great scene for Williams as well, who were absolutely suffering with crashes last season. Their biggest expense last year was probably duct tape. After that red flag, we started again.
Verstappen led the race from start to finish, and this was an important win for him because he had just DNF'd in Australia. His girlfriend Kelly and, as he calls it, bonus child, Penelope, were at the race in Australia, and that little girl looked so sad when his car pulled in with that fire on his wheel. Max later had said that he felt it was almost his duty to win so that she doesn't think that she's unlucky for him or something, which I thought was very cute. During the podium celebrations, you can actually hear P screaming, "Max, yay!" through the Dutch national anthem. The race was good for Perez as well, who was on the podium, making a lot of Mexicans very happy.
The podium was completed by Carlos Sainz, who had the better tire strategy. Leclerc was told not to fight him, so he got past one place with ease. Actually, this race was defined by tire strategy, and we saw a lot of fights happening in the midfield.
And how can we forget the legendary radio from Lance Stroll in his Aston Martin, who screamed about how bad the car was, saying, "It's from a different category." And long-time F1 fans obviously remembered a very similar team radio that his teammate Alonso had done in the McLaren when he was screaming, "GP2 engine! GP2 engine!"
We also saw a great battle last year between Russell in the Mercedes and McLaren's Piastri. He absolutely sends it where there are the points on the line. He does not care who is fighting. Even though he got dive bombed by Russell, Oscar kept sounding super calm and collected. It did not work out for him in the end, but this was Oscar's second year in F1 ever, and he was punching above his weight.
There was this really cool simultaneous pit stop from 5 different midfield teams with Yuki coming out of it first. That was an amazing moment which was not fully broadcast. They show it like much later on a replay. It's something that I was keenly following because I saw him pitting, and then I saw like in that data tracker, that you have on F1 TV, I could see Yuki pitting, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. There were like 4 more people pitting, and it was the most nerve-wracking moment for me. But he came out of that battle first, and then he went on to have an even more scary 3-way fight between Hülkenberg in his Haas and Stroll in the Aston Martin for that final place point. But luckily, it was Yuki's to take home. Suzuka, of course, is one of the toughest circuits on the F1 calendar. It demands a perfectly balanced car, precise setup, and a lot of strategic thinking. Teams need to prepare for the fast-flowing corners and high tire degradation.
When it comes to car setup, Suzuka is all about high-speed cornering, which means teams prioritize aerodynamics and mechanical grip. There's a lot of bumpy sections and elevation changes. So a well-balanced suspension is really crucial for handling high-speed direction changes. The open layout also means crosswinds can unsettle cars mid-corner. So engineers adjust wing settings accordingly here.
Yes, and also I think starting from Suzuka, we are not going to have that flexi wing thing anymore. The FIA initially had said, no, it's fine, you can do it up until Spain. But I think now they're bringing that back and redacting, saying, no more flexi wings. Please just bring your normal downforce setups. It's expected to be about 8 to 16 degrees in Suzuka, which is cool-ish. Track temperatures, of course, will change a little bit. There are also high chances of rain. And if that happens, that might make this race even more exciting. In terms of pit stop, a one stop is ideal but very, very risky because the tire wear is so high that most teams will prefer to do a 2-stop strategy to maintain some pace.
Right.
Teams will lose at least 22 seconds coming in for a pit stop, and this race has a 67% chance of a safety car and 50% chance of a virtual safety car. So they may hang about, hope for someone to cause some kind of red flag or yellow flag so that they can use that as a cheap pit stop. But it's going to be something exciting to see. You never know what will happen.
Right. And with Suzuka, it just like we already discussed, the weather plays a major role. So let's see how it's looking next week.
Suzuka isn't just special because of the track. It is the 230,000 fans that make it truly magical. The Japanese F1 fans are some of the most passionate and creative in the world. They don't just show up in team shirts, they go all out, designing elaborate hats, costumes, and banners. You'll see giant handmade Yuki Tsunoda helmets, DRS wings strapped to their backs, and even full-blown anime cosplays in the grandstands. One of the most heartwarming traditions at Suzuka is the post-race fan salute. Even after a brutal race, you'll see thousands of Japanese fans still in the grandstands waving banners and thanking the drivers for the show. That's the kind of love for motorsports that makes Suzuka one of the most beloved circuits on the calendar. And I really want good things for Yuki. I think this might be his last year in F1, but I'm hoping and expecting to see him in a great position at Suzuka. So, Chandreyi, you've actually been there. You've attended a race. Please tell us about your experience. How was it?
Well, if I were to sum it up in short words, then it was pure joy and F1 fanaticism in the best way that I could see. It was a really interesting decision that we took because we planned an entire 15-day trip to culminate at Suzuka. And when we finished traveling through Japan and were headed towards Suzuka, where you get to from, say, the city of Nagoya, uh, Japan was shut down for an incoming Category 5 typhoon. So, this is what I was saying, that Japan is really unpredictable when it comes to weather. And earlier, the Suzuka race would happen around the month of September or October, which is ideally like autumn time for them as well. So, there
Yeah.
were larger chances of typhoons and storms coming in, and that is exactly what happened to us. So we were parked in Nagoya with plans to stay near Suzuka, but everything changed within just a day's notice because the trains shut down. And Japan, when it comes to these things, they are super really very, very well prepared and super efficient in terms of protection and in terms of staying safe. So, as soon as the typhoon was announced, all the bullet trains were shut down, and the typhoon hit finally around noon on Thursday. So, we could not actually make it to Suzuka. There was no point also going because we could not really travel. We were told to stay indoors. So, we stayed back in Nagoya and prayed really hard for a quick go away for the typhoon. But ultimately, as luck would have it, our Friday schedule was cancelled because there was a lot of water expected to be on the track and it would not lead to a good qualifying or even a practice session. So Friday was cancelled, but qualifying remained to happen on Saturday. So eventually we could attend Saturday and Sunday as the weather clears very quickly in Japan as well. And that
Yeah.
weekend, Nisha, let me tell you, I really saw what festivity means. Because the Japanese, when it comes to motorsport and racing, and this as one of the major events that they have every year, people just pour in from all over the country. And right from
Wow.
very, very early in the morning, everyone is being shipped from the nearby stations to the circuit. The whole management is just really well managed. It's very, very efficient. And yes, it was a big fair because you have the Ferris wheel, you have a lot of food happening around. There are cookout camps and people bring their food. Somebody is doing a picnic, and you see the fans just coming in through the first part of the day, and you even see the drivers drive in. And it was really interesting because I think we got a glimpse of Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly, which was really nice because they just come into the parking where you can see them from afar. You don't necessarily have to go too close, but you can really, really like see them in person. So I think that was really
Oh.
cool for me to experience. And this was my first ever F1 in location. So I actually did not know what to expect when you are sitting in the grandstand and looking at the race instead of looking at it from on F1 TV like we do.
Yeah.
So we had our seats somewhere around the S curve's ends. So I think we were at corner turn 6, just before the Dunlop
Okay.
curve. And you really get some, those are actually high speed corners because at the end of the S curve, the drivers just start taking up speed to go into Dunlop curve. So it was a fantastic spot to be in, and we walked around the track, and we even saw a little spot where people would put flowers for Jules Bianchi. The memory was still very
Oh.
fresh. And I remember at that time, I was an ardent Vettel fan, and I was hoping that Sebastian Vettel would get the title. But at the end of the race, it was Valtteri Bottas who clinched the
Oh.
first place, followed by Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. And this
Okay.
was the same weekend when Hamilton set the world record that we discussed at the beginning of our show. So the 1 minute 30 seconds time that he
Yeah.
had set was on this weekend, and it does make it a little bit extra special.
Wow.
So, despite the Mercedes supremacy, there were a lot of fans from Ferrari, McLaren, a lot of individual fans for Fernando Alonso. But sadly, that year there were no Japanese drivers on the grid. So I actually could not
Yeah.
experience what it would be like this year, like when people would be cheering for Yuki. And well, it was an exhausting race. So as we discussed, that the track is technical and demands a lot from the drivers. So yeah, it was a dream come true, and I'm really excited to see what happens this year because Yuki, I'm really putting. I know we are talking a lot about Yuki, and I don't know if he's listening to this, but this probably would put a lot of pressure on him. But having said that, I think the Japanese people really deserve some good results because it's been a long time coming for them, and they have
Yes.
always showed so much love for the sport, and the vibe is extraordinary. Everybody is smiling and laughing and talking to you, and you share beers and you get talking to different fans of different teams, and everybody just eats on the same table. So I think it's a great community vibe that you get when you attend a race in Japan.
That is so awesome. And like I said, like Suzuka is on my list. 100% I'm coming to you for itinerary and like things to do, things to avoid and everything. I want to be prepared for this race. And Chandre, you expect a call from me very soon.
Absolutely. And very interestingly, I think Alex Albon is someone that we should be looking out for in Japan as well, because being the only South Asian guy on the grid,
Yeah.
I feel that whenever he gets closer to home and gets a semi-home crowd, he gets an additional boost and confidence as well. So I am really looking forward. He finished on 9th today. So I'm just hoping that Alex Albon comes into Japan with some great confidence and delivers a stunning performance.
I hope so too. I think it'll be nice to see. I genuinely like Alex as a driver. I think he's good, he's consistent, and he knows that he's going to push the team and do well for Williams. So yeah, it'll be nice to see him do well in Japan as well. So that's a wrap on the Japanese Grand Prix. But before we sign off, I need to hear from Chandreyi. What is your one boldest prediction for the 2025 season?
Well, I think we already talked about a lot of speculative things between you and me.
Yes.
But if you were asking me to be bold, well, it's Hamilton winning the championship. What else?
Of course, yes. And
Good for
you
Albon.
see that potentially happening. Of course, of course. There's no other option for him right now. But
No, it's a dream. It will be a dream. It's a dream for the world, and I'm sure when Lewis Hamilton started racing those many years back, he does say that every child's dream is to drive that red car, and he has his red car
True.
now. So yes, let's bring it on, Lewis, and win 2025.
I know we're all waiting to see that eighth title. So, funny thing, I just noticed that in Shanghai, his helmet, right? He has these stars on the side, which is like there's like 7 stars, right?
Right.
Showing that 7 world titles, whatever. But the Shanghai fans who had like this huge LH44 flag, they had clearly put 8 stars. I don't know if that was. If they believe that Abu Dhabi 2021 Lewis is the winner, or they believe that this year he's going to be 8-time world champion. Either way, they're completely on board with your prediction, Chandre. So let's hope for that.
Yes.
To our amazing listeners, what do you think? Drop your hot takes in the comments, send us a message, or tag us in your wildest predictions. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share F101 with friends, because this community is just getting started. If you have any queries or you want to be a friend on the pod, please reach out to me on Instagram. The link is in the description. Special shout out to Ashwati and Kevin. We've heard from them in previous episodes. They support me with this podcast and also support my mental health. And thank you, Chandreyi, for being on this episode. I've been your host, Nisha, and I'll see you on the next episode of F101 with Friends.